like so honored and grateful for our last speaker of today, Beatriz, who's joining me here today, the CEO and founder of SUMA Wealth. But before I jump into having this wonderful conversation, just wanted to share that although this is our last session for today, day 2 is tomorrow. That one's in person. It's here in Boston. So for those of you that are here in the area and you haven't registered for tomorrow, we recommend that you do, because we're going to continue with wonderful conversations and a workshop and networking event and a career fair tomorrow. So just wanted to put that out there, because I know that towards the end, people start to log off and things like that. So wanted to mention that. But thank you so much, Beatriz, for joining us today. We've had some wonderful conversations on different points of view and ways that we manage, resilience. And I know that you're not stranger to being resilient in your journey. You are the CEO and co-founder of SUMA Wealth currently, but you've built so many other businesses, and you started early in your career as in the radio and media, and then you've navigated your way through a lot of different things, and a fellow Mexican. You're from Tijuana. Yo soy de México, de la Ciudad de México. I know that you live there also. So instead of me reading your long bio, is just incredible, I would love for you to share with us how you made your way through in your journey, and what motivated you through all of those moments to end up doing what you currently do today.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I wish I could be there in person tomorrow in Boston, which is one of my favorite cities in the whole world. My husband is from Boston and my in-laws still live in Boston. And I wish my kids next year that they go to college, one of them, at least, I have twins, might end up in Boston or somewhere near Boston. But anyhow, I won't be in person there. I actually will be in New York. But great to be here virtually. And I hope to visit with a Boston chapter soon enough. I'm a hustler, like so many other Latinas. Since I was a little kid, I just think I had it in my DNA to hustle. I think my parents did a really good job with, although, they were their first generation to go to college and to really break out of sort of their family dynamics of scarcity. They still did a very good job. I think both of my parents were very concerned, primarily my dad. They're like, we don't want to have kids who just feel super entitled and are super privileged. And we weren't rich, but we were a nice, comfortable middle class. But they were still very mindful that we had to work for the things that we wanted, even when they could pay for them. So since I was 8 years old, I had not really a catering job, but I would make cakes, some of these pies and that needed no baking after school, and some cookies, and I would sell them in my dad's office building after school. And, so I could buy my Nike tennis shoes and my Sergio Valente or Jordache jeans, totally dating myself. Most of you have not been born when those were trendy. But I think, I always had that entrepreneurial spirit in me. I worked from a very young age, like I said, not because I had to, but because my parents definitely encouraged both my brother and I to just learn the value of what money was. And what motivates me, it's changed, right? I think at the beginning of my career, when I was very young, what motivated me was me. I want to achieve some personal goals. I want to win some awards. Oh my gosh, I want to die. 1 second, it's my dog.
No worries. That's what resilience is all about, right?
Adaptability, as we heard.
Yes.
I adapt to this dog every single day. He's the most adorable dog, but he's a rescue and he is beyond overly protective. So it must have been like the mailman who just approached our home and then he gets super fierce. So my apologies for that. As I was saying at the very beginning of my career, what motivated me was me, being successful, me winning awards, me getting that recognition. I can tell you that now in my 50s, what motivates me is very, very different. My big motivation is how many doors can I open for other Latinas? How much funding can I get for other Latinas in my, not that I don't do it for Latinos, but definitely Latinas are always my priority and have a bigger place in my heart. So the motivation is not the same. But I mean, I think I continue to feel incredibly lucky to be who I am, an immigrant Latina, hustler. I've had a lot of energy throughout my life. So, I feel very blessed, being able to have done whatever I've ever put my mind into it. And obviously things, like we heard in the panel before, are never a straight line to success. There's so many roads, there's so many turns. But yeah, also learning to adapt and continue with that perseverance. I think it's what's been key for me in my career.
Thank you. And I just jotted down like 5 different things that I would like to just continue to dig deep into. But one of the things that resonated with me of what you're saying is this feeling or this movement from, at first it's about, you and what's important to you, and then what's important to others. But through all of that, did you ever feel, especially now, that pressure of that many of us have of being like Superwoman, right? Like I remember for a lot of the early part of my career, there was this always mention of we're supposed to know everything, and we're supposed to do like even the Superwoman for pose, and always look like you know what you're going to say, and inside you're like, I have no idea like what I'm supposed to do, or I don't have the answer. And as you grow, like that pressure, grows even more. So would love to hear from you. Like, did you, in that journey, have you felt that pressure? And how does that look like? How have you been able to manage that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I've always felt the pressure. When I was a little kid, I had a very strong dad who had big expectations of me. So if I ever had an A-, his question was, why not an A+, right? I would never do that to my own children. They'll have an A or a B, and I'm like, as long as you gave it your best, that it's totally okay. So yes, I lived in a household where my dad, who had a military background, literally, expected perfection, like from the household. And as I've grown older, when people ask me, what do you tell your younger self? I'm like, yeah, perfection doesn't exist, and stop chasing it. But back then, that's what I was taught. So from a kid point of view, it was really my dad asking of me to, be that super person. In anything that I did, I should excel and be number one. And then as I grew older, I didn't have my dad pressuring me in any way professionally, but I put the pressure on myself, just because when you are the first or the only one in so many of these rooms where you clearly know that, well, you don't clearly know, but for me, I felt the really big responsibility of sort of representing my community, right? So to be overly prepared, to sound overly smart, to sound like there's no room, or maybe there is, of course, but for me, I just felt like if I am the only one in this SPAC, or in these very, very high profile boards, or in these very high profile meetings, dinners, stages around the world, like, how could I screw up, right? I'm the only woman, I'm the only Latina, I'm the only immigrant, I'm the only woman after over 50. There's so many boxes that you check, which people usually don't get those opportunities, that you always constantly feel that responsibility to wow others with whatever, you are doing. I don't feel that much today. But I still want to be prepared. I still want to, know what I'm talking about. And as you know, or you might not know, but my career started in media and entertainment, and I'm a marketing girl. And I made a crazy pivot very recently during the pandemic into fintech, and I knowing absolutely nothing about fintech. So at nights and at weekends. I enrolled in, very intense courses at Harvard, Berkeley, Wharton, on crypto, on blockchain, on digital assets, on fintech, on DeFi, all the things that I had no idea. I had to Google each single one of the words. I would read for hours, read, articles and watch videos until I self-taught myself a completely different career that I've never been a part of, but that I felt that this is very important for our community, and that if I combine my background with media and entertainment, making finance something that was very pop culture and easy to understand and even fun and funny, that was really something really missing in our community. So, I am the perfect example, and for everybody here listening, that you can reinvent yourself at any moment of your life. I am 53 years old, and this is exactly when I decided to make a pivot. Almost when you're almost supposed to retire, I'm like, no, let me just learn the hardest thing possible now, and then also raise capital in the middle of a pandemic. And so it's possible, right? I'm very much a believer and of the Si Se Puede from our beloved Dolores Huerta. There's a price, yes. It's not easy, no. But it's definitely possible.
I love that. I just jotted on the chat a couple of the things that you shared, and I definitely jotted this one about you can reinvent yourself. I added the at any point in life, because I think part of that resiliency, you're right, like it is about constantly shifting and changing, because to what you were talking about earlier, right, our motivations throughout our life also change, and what, where we could have been doing something that we loved. I know that happened to me, doing something that you love, then suddenly like life changes, shifts, and suddenly you're just working because you're working, but it's not because you're still jumping out of bed. And I think we have to recognize, especially as women, that there's a moment that we can say, what am I doing here? Like, why am I doing this? And is my heart still in that place? So I love that what you're saying, to allow ourselves to say, that's not my path anymore. Now, like, let's find a new path, no matter where we are. And in that moment, at least for me personally, when I pivoted also to a completely new space that I wasn't in, one thing that I realized was that, again, that pressure of feeling that I had to have the answers, right? That I had to do it all myself. And one of the things that actually helped me in the pivot was having a support system and building a support system and a support network, which I did not have before. And I didn't realize that I had in Mexico, but then moving here to the US, I never bothered to build it. I'm an introvert, so it was like, network, not my thing. But once somebody brought it up and I started to actively build that support network, that's what helped me sort of in that pivot. So would love to hear your point of view and your thoughts as you pivoted. Like, how have you built a support system to support you?
I'm a giver more than a taker. I don't do really well asking for help either. So in that regard, and I'm not an introvert, but I almost feel like, I love to give and I feel really good by giving. But I'm definitely not the one like asking for the favors back or anything like that. I know a lot of people here know me, so I'm always jumping in whenever they're like, hey, do you know so-and-so? Can you introduce? I'm like, absolutely. And I feel incredibly, strange if I have to ask for a favor back, which I tend not to do. But, I've learned that it's really, really important to do it. So I was diagnosed just last summer with something called atrial fibrillation, which is, your heart beats at a really insane rate. So, normal people are under 100 when you're just sort of like now sitting at a Zoom, and mine can go up to 300 beats per minute. So it's not a very good thing. And mine is very much stress related, lack of sleep, lack of exercise, not eating perfectly. And you know, your body's super smart, and there's a moment when it's going to tell you. We heard Valeria earlier when she was saying I had a breakdown, and you know, your body's just smart of when it'll tell you, okay, if you're not going to do it on your own, you're going, well, I'm going to do it for you. So, you know, after this year, I've gotten better at asking for help, and more than that, at feeling less guilty for saying I'm tired, or I need a nap, or you know what, I'm so sorry, like I can't be mentoring 20 people at a time, or I love to help Latinas primarily. My superpower is raising capital. So I'm pretty good at connecting people with the right investors. Like I do that very well. But there's just times when it's like 2 a.m. and I just can't keep going. And I'll say, I'm going to do it, but you're going to have to give me sometime in this month, I'll get to it, right? Which I know for founders who are desperately trying to raise capital, they would want me to do it today. But today, when it's 1 a.m., I turn off my computer no matter what things I have not done, which is something I would never have done a year ago. So I think I'm getting better at sort of like, you know, not slowing down certainly, because I'm not like slacking off by any means, but trying to honor my body and just the time that I have, and asking for help. I recently wrote this blog on LinkedIn, which was, it was supposed to be about raising capital, but it, and how you prep for it, because it's like a mental and physical, very grueling experience. But it was really more on things you can apply in general to really not put yourself last, right? And one of them was exactly that. How do you ask for help, and how do you not you know, feel guilty for splurging into things that are not only going to open up time, but also mental space for you, right? Things you don't need to think about. And that is so crucial. So for example, I'll give you like a ridiculous example, but as a Mexican, you will totally relate to me. So we have this supermarket in LA that I absolutely adore called Northgate Market. And when you walk into this market, and there's others like Vallarta's and others, the one that's closer to me is called Northgate. And it's like walking into like Ana Aurrera, Superama, and you know, any of those, La Comercial, whatever in Mexico. Everything is exactly like that. It's like, oh my God, total nostalgia. Every single one of our brands, they have the tortilleria, they have the panaderia, like, and I love it. So obviously, I only get tortillas from this place because like they're making the fresh tortillas. So very different than buying them at your local American supermarket. And, you know, I used to drive half an hour to get to Northgate, get my warm tortillas or bolillos or, you know, pan dulce, and then come home. And now I discovered that Instacart, thank you technology, can deliver them to my house. And because, you know, of my American Express card, I get the delivery for free. But a year ago when I did not get it for free, and they charge you, I don't know, $3, $5, whatever it was, you know, I was like, oh, I should go to Northgate and buy the tortillas. Realistically, with gas prices, it's cheaper to get it through Instacart. But whatever, when gas prices were not high, it was a splurge, right? And now I'm like, I feel zero guilt to order my tortillas through Instacart, right? So what are the things that you can do? Not even like asking others, but how do you free up that time? And what are the priorities that your life should take over other things, right? So anyway, that's mine, right? Thankfully, I can afford the extra $3 fee and the tip to get my tortillas, and that frees up an hour of my time, which if I need to meditate, if I need to breathe, if I need to feed myself a better meal, I'm able to do to just be able to keep going. But that's something that I would have never prioritized a year ago. So yes, that's superwoman syndrome. You know, I saw my mom do it all. And we heard Valeria also say this, you know, I saw my mom do it all, and she like, you know, totally took care of my dad, although she had a PhD, but she was still la señora de la casa, you know, serving him and cooking for him and for us and for this. And now I'm just like, no, like I'm not gonna do it. She still asks me every day, it's like, what are we gonna make for lunch? I'm like, I don't know, Mom, Doug can figure it out. And to her, it's like traumatizing that I'm gonna let my poor Bostonian husband deal with the food, but he's amazing, you know, he's so supportive, and he'll know what could be for food tonight, right? Because I'm here and I had a long day, and he doesn't mind. So sometimes, you know, we gotta divvy up the responsibilities. I'm lucky to be married to somebody who totally is an incredible partner and supporter. So I'm very, very lucky in that way.
Thank you. Like, again, you keep dropping all of these great nuggets, and I definitely relate a lot. And in terms of building that support group, like you, I also have a great husband that from the beginning, like we decided that he was going to take care of the kids so that I could continue growing my career. And but other women don't have that, but they still like not feeling guilty. To your point, I think it's critically important to reach out and ask for help, because many of us feel that we need to support everybody, right? Yeah. Support our kids, support our husband, our families, friends, the boss, people at work, and we spread ourselves so thin. And then we fall into what you say, right? What Valeria says. I also like, there was a moment in time that I also crashed, and I hear that again and again with many other women, that we just burn out because we keep on giving and giving. And I think that's part of
it
learning
strange,
to care
right?
for
like,
us. Yeah.
So strange when you when we get on those flights, and when you hear that you put that mask, oxygen mask first before you put it on your kid. I'm like, no way, I'm gonna put on my. But that just speaks to, like, my dad would always say, like, you cannot give what you don't have. That's so true, right? Because he was like, okay, well, like, if you don't take care of you, then you'll be able to take care of no one. So even if it's not in a, in a selfish way, but even if it's in a way of like, okay, you're going to be a better mom and a better wife and a better daughter and a better co-worker, whatever it is, okay, then hack your mind telling yourself that, although we should not feel guilty for putting ourselves first. But if you do, you could always, just sort of make that change internally and think, okay, I'm doing it still for others. We're very much, and again, going to Valeria, because, she has this incredible book where she talks about all the things, how we were programmed, but we are a society and a community, Latinos, not Anglos, who are other, we've learned this, others before self, right? Others are always more important than us. So that's how we grew up, thinking that you put yourself at the end of the list and everybody else is more important than you. But if so many people depend on you, that makes no sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about putting, feeling comfortable with putting your self-worth, first, you talk about like your shift. You now have SUMA Wealth, moving into that wealth mindset, which is, I think, something that also as Latinos, we don't know. Like, I know that growing up, like, that was something that was never talked at home. And then as women, like, it's on the bottom of the list, like, which it shouldn't, because we make ends meet. I don't know how, like, we end up pulling from the bottom of the purse, but it's not a mindset that we have on how to build wealth. And I know that that's very close to your heart, not only in general for Latinos, but also to teach youth, to get them started, with that mindset. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we definitely don't grow up talking about money, and certainly less about how to build wealth. I think, there's so many sayings from our abuelitas of like, el dinero es el diablo, and things like this, that already it's ingrained in us that, money is not good, right? Money is evil, or money will change you. Money will not make you a good person. And, we just have to really change that. We have to change that for the next generations. And even when we all saw our parents work super hard, like from the previous panel that we heard so many colleagues talk about that, my parents, the same way, they worked super hard. They were, like I said, college educated. They did well, but they never invested. I mean, when my dad passed away 5 years ago, and my dad was like an incredible attorney, like award-winning attorney and an amazing philanthropist. Every single suit that he owned, and he thought that he had to always, my kids would always ask him like, oh yeah, Abu, like from abuelo, why do you always look like you're gonna get married? Like, he was always super pressed, super dapper, but he always played the part of the attorney, right? And so all he wore were suits. So when he passed away, out of the 100 suits he had, in every single pocket, there were thousands of dollars in cash. It was ridiculous. I'm like, why did my dad need so much cash? or just hidden in drawers and stuff like this. And I'm like, this is an educated guy. Like this is I don't know exactly what he was doing with that cash. But I know both of my parents, my mother has a PhD, and she told me the other day that when she sells some land, she's going to put it in la caja fuerte, right? Like I'm like, in the safe deposit box, which by the way, she bought in Costco, and it's like a tiny little box that anybody could just carry and take with her. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, so whenever people say, oh, this is because people are not educated and they don't know, my parents knew, but they also were from a generation, right? When I was 8, where they lost everything when they were in Mexico. We were border people, and at the border, you were able to have US dollar bank accounts because everything they charge you in dollars, even though you make pesos. And overnight, they were like, oh, there's a devaluation of 60% and there's no more dollars in Mexico. So you're welcome. You just lost everything. And like, there's no customer service that you can go and say, oh, this is not right. This is unfair. It's like, yeah, that's how it goes. Like, deal. So I understand the post-traumatic syndrome of that, but this is a different country, right? And we happen to see how those second generation, third generation continue with that distrust in financial institutions. I don't think there's anybody, whether it's the new fintechs or the traditional banking companies, that have really acquired Latinos at scale by doing like sort of like in culture marketing or in culture content to really educate them about, you know, how your money's insured up to what money, what's happening, you know, how you should invest. And that's what the void that we're trying to fill with SUMA. For me, it's heartbreaking to see that, and we saw during the pandemic, that yes, this is amazing for everybody, that we are the biggest consumers. Woohoo! Congratulations to us that we buy so much, but we're also the smallest investors, right? We are the demographic that had the least savings, $1,000 per family per average. You might say, no, I have 100,000. Yeah, so if you have 100,000, imagine to get to the average of 1,000, some people don't even have $1 in savings. So $1,000 on average per family, that gets you nowhere, right? In a pandemic, in an economic downturn, in an inflation, like that is horrible. And then the $1,000 aren't even invested. They're not even in a high yield account. They're like under the mattress, under the colchon, right? Or in my mom's caja fuerte. So that's horrible. Like, this is not okay. So, you know, what we're trying to do at SUMA is really be that first, you know, company that our community trusts. We are very focused on youth because, you know, we heard from the previous panel on how, you know, some of them were the translators since they were little kids for their family. And that continues to be, even if you're not the physical translator, you're still translating the American ethos to your older family members, even if they now speak English. But so when it comes to finances too, it's the younger generations that can really teach the older generations and bring everybody into, like, you know, what are the benefits of investing, what's new in fintech, etc. So I'm super, super excited and super honored that I get to lead this company with this double bottom line. Sure, we want to be a profitable venture-backed fintech company, but we will absolutely fail if we're not able to really deliver on the promise of helping our community close the wealth gap and really educate them into all the things that we didn't grow up with, and also to tell them that it's okay not to know. I didn't know, right? And I was still successful and known and whatever, and I don't know, I don't understand fully like a 401k. I mean, now I do, but you know, we like to even laugh at that. We have a series called 401k, like what the hell is that? And so people are like, oh my God, thank God you did that, because I don't know. And these are people who are Ivy League educated, elected officials. Like, we talk to all kinds of people, and we're like, it's okay not to know. You're like in a safe place, in a safe community, and this is the space for you to learn and for us to, you know, start building that trust again. So yeah, that's what I'm doing now, and that's why I had to take so many night classes to catch up into finance from just being a marketing girl.
Thank you. And do not only youth, but do like us, more seasoned, for not say old, people can join. Because I remember that, to your point, like I when I moved into this country 10 years ago, all these, 401k and investment and the mortgage and, how do you navigate all of those different things? I still question. I'm still trying to figure out how to get, how to get the loans for one of my kids' college, and people don't. They explain to you, or at least they have explained to me in a way that some things I'm still like, I have no idea. I'm
no.
just like hoping for the best and that I'm not making like a decision that I'm going to be sorry about, because they can speak to me in English, they can speak to me in Spanish. I still don't get it.
Yeah,
Like
no, you're right.
their
It's
language.
as difficult in both languages. And I love, I mean, listen, we work with a lot of financial partners. I think all the big banks and institutions and a lot of the fintechs, and they come to us because although they have the resources, to your point, whether you read it in English or in Spanish, it's as confusing, right? Just because I don't know why. I guess they're bankers. I don't know. But they're not going to be explaining with an avocado how ripe is your credit, right? They're not going to be explaining with a tortilla, a soft and hard credit inquiry, whether it's like something that's hard or something that's soft. They're not going to be, we're just, at that intersection of pop culture, entertainment, fun content, and finance. So we recently had two abuelitas on our Twitter Spaces, and we wanted to show them how to open a wallet and how to send free money to their countries of origin. One was Mexico, and she's been sending for 30 years money to her sister, and the deduction that she takes between the money she sends and once it gets to the sister, it's 30% of like thousands and thousands of dollars. I mean, from 30 years, God knows how much, hundreds of thousands of dollars that her sisters never received. So we were like, we're going to make it so easy to teach you about, opening a wallet and doing remittances at no fees, that we're going to teach two abuelitas. And until the two abuelitas understand it, we're not going to leave the Twitter Spaces. And it was amazing. Now they're using it, now they're doing it, and we're very excited. And people get pesos, so don't be nervous. That's like, oh, I heard crypto is down. Like, no, you could still, you're just using the blockchain technology to send your transfer. But for people who are like, I don't understand that, no, because we have to understand it, because that's why we are behind, and we can be behind. There's so many things that we could use towards our advantage that we don't. So anyway, we're just super excited to be that company that does it in a really fun, culturally relevant way, and super easy to understand. And all our classes are free. If anybody's interested, it's sumaacademy.org. Our app is free. Our app gives you a financial checkup. We call it a financial limpia. And it's very easy to use. I know it's super scary to know where you are. I mean, but you can improve what you can't measure. You really can. So I am mortified every time I step on the scale and look at my weight. But I know when I stop doing it, that's when like it really creeps up on me, right? Like I just have to take a deep breath and go for it. So same with your finances. You need to know where you stand. And then from there, you could do a plan on how do you start getting better in the areas that you can improve on. And we coach you with like AI enabled insights that get to know you really, really well. So we're like your 24-hour financial coach on your phone. We do it in a, like I said, in a fun and easy way. And we're able to track the progress. So we're hoping that in a few years, we can say like directly linked to us, this is how we improve the lives of millions of Latinos and we help them build wealth. So that's something that I'm so excited about, and that, I feel like if I do it well, I'll be able to like die in peace one day. So I'm super excited about what SUMA is building.
Yeah, and congratulations, because there's not only the catch up of just from a mindset perspective, going to your point from, la caja fuerte, el colchón, whatever our habits are, even like just leaving it in a checking account or whatever it is, right? So there's catch up from there. And then there's everything that's happening between crypto and NFTs. Like I recently heard about NFTs and I'm like, I don't get, like, I don't understand
And I
all
can
of
be
those things.
back and do a whole hour on NFTs
Yeah.
whenever you want me. And there's different kinds, right? We're launching an
Yeah.
NFT mercadito actually at SUMA, but they're going to be utility NFTs, which are very different than collectible NFTs. So happy to come back and tell you
Yes.
all about it. But there's so many new things that I do feel that, you know,
Yep.
Web3 takes consumers to owners. And as I just said earlier, we are the biggest consumers. What if we were the biggest owners, right?
Yes.
That would be game changing for our community. And there are so many ways to do that where you still can be incredibly careful and insured and all the things that you feel like your caja fuerte or your colchón gives you, but it doesn't. And still, you know, start to build that wealth. And you can start with very little. You can start investing with $1, with $5. So for a lot of people who think, pues tengo que ser millonario. No, you don't have to be a millionaire. You can start very small, and you can start by supporting the companies that you already are a massive consumer in, or your kids are, and start to have those conversations with them of like, change the mindset from consumer to owner. You're a shareholder. What does it mean to be a shareholder?
Yes.
Let's follow how this company is doing. You know, my husband still gets checks from like some, I don't know if it was Ford or like some sort of auto company that his dad gave him stock for a birthday when he was a kid, right? And we get these checks, like, I'm like, oh my God, this is incredible. I had no idea. I mean, my dad would have never even known how to do that. But today that there's so many apps that help you, you know, start investing with nothing, you know, that's totally democratized. Many years ago, you couldn't. You had to be something called an accredited investor and have a net worth of $1 million, not counting your home. So, you know, that put a lot of us out of that possibility of being investors. But now with fractional shares, which is you just buy a little piece, you don't have to buy the whole pizza. You can just buy a slice of the pizza when it comes to like a share of a company that you like. Now that's available to everybody. And that's definitely game changing. But a lot of people in our community really don't know about it or are scared about it. So
and I think part of the fear, right, is many of us have been scammed before because we don't know. So there's that other side of trusting people that supposedly come and tell you, you know, if you give me this, if you give me that, like I'm going to turn it into millions. And people don't do the research.
Yes.
Like they don't do the research and they just like trust and give them, you know, their whatever, and then suddenly that's gone. So
exactly.
Can you talk a little bit more about?
That's super scary, and that's why we're trying to do as much financial education as we can. There was a woman who worked with me who was like, "Ay, mira, señora, I got this on the WhatsApp, and they tell me if I send $5,000, they guarantee me that I'm gonna get 10,000 by Friday." I'm like, whoever guarantees you that's gonna get 5,000 in 3 days, like that is a scam. So there's a lot of that, but there's also a lot of other fully legit ways that you can invest. And again, like I said, that are insured, that are much more secure, that you can start with very little, and you know, and avoid all of those scams. And it's scary to navigate, right? But that's why, you know, you don't do it all also, but you need to get that information from whatever source that you trust. That what's super interesting is for us, in just a little bit over a year that we've launched, we have over 550,000 consumers on SUMA. And the number one question that we get from them is, who do you trust? Like, who do we trust at SUMA, and who can we trust, right? So it's like, you tell me who to trust. Like, do I trust Acorns or Robinhood? Do I trust so-and-so and so? Do I trust Fulanito or Menganito? And so we're also a source of that, of really curating partners that we know are legit and that we trust and that we can fully recommend. Because as I said, our mission as a company is to help our community build wealth. So we would never recommend something that is going to jeopardize that. So
Yeah, and you touch on day trading also with like Robinhood, like that's something also that's coming up. So a lot to learn. It's not only about the catching up, just from a mindset perspective, but all
Yeah.
the new things that we need to learn in terms of what we can do with, to your point, from $1 to whatever it is. But definitely in la caja fuerte, in the colchón, in the like, it's
No.
just you're losing money. It's understanding that we're losing money by just keeping it like not working for us, right?
Right.
That's what I learned like passive income was. And I when I came in, I was like, what's passive income? Like people talked about like all these, the more streams of passive income you can build, like the better. And so it's all that shift. Now, specifically talking about women, because again, we feel this responsibility to provide. We talked about it at the beginning of our conversation. What can women do, and especially professional women who, to your point, like were educated in some way or form? Like, what is the thing that you would recommend that, if there's one thing to do, like what would you recommend for us to do?
Well, obviously, to get that education, that's going to make you feel much more comfortable in whatever decision that you are going to make. But I think like when people say like, if I need to make one change, like, or where would I start? If one recommendation of something, whether you're a Latina or non-Latina, I would say like budgeting is something so important, because you think you spend so much money, but you might be spending so much more, right? I know I use my mother so much, and thank God she's not listening, because she'd be mortified. She's always like, no sé por qué me usa siempre. But I remember my dad asking my mom for years to do a budget, right? And my mom had this like big yellow pad where she would be like writing like, agua, comida, blah, blah, blah. And then like my dad passed away. I mean, they were married for 50 years, and my mom never finished the damn budget, like never, right? Like she was always working on her budget. And to this day, she has no idea. She's like, ay, me hackearon mi tarjeta. I'm like, no, mom, like that Ross adds up, right? Marshall's adds up, even though it's cheap. But, really knowing what money is coming in and going out is the most basic and most important thing you can do. Now, we don't live in the era 50 years ago when my mom was starting to make her budget in her yellow pad. Now there's hundreds of apps, hundreds, where you can do these budgets for free, and it also tracks you. We help you track as well. So if you say, okay, I can only, spend X amount of money in going out or food or whatever, clothing, it'll tell you, it'll send you a notification saying, hey, watch out, like you spend more than this, or you spend more this weekend than the next one. Maybe next weekend, consider that hay comida en la casa, so don't go out. And you need to really be mindful. So it's not even on you doing it in an Excel or adding it up in your yellow pad. Like technology is there, like technology is here to support us. So, I'd say do a budget that tracks whoever you like to do it. I mean, ours is very fun and in culture, but you can use any other budgeting tracking tool, and it'll help you stay on track. Because again, you can improve what you can measure, so you have to measure. And then budgeting, you have to know, right? Like, what are your absolutes that you need to survive and to pay for? What are the things that you really want, but they're negotiable, that you might be able to not have for a little bit or have less of? And then what's going into your emergency fund, because that's super, super important. I learned that early on, when in my 20s, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm like the it girl in this TV station. I just won my Emmys. I just won an MTV award. I'm in the cover of every magazine. I'm going to be in this job forever. And then I got fired, and I was like, oh my God, like I have no savings, right? I was so living large in Mexico City. And I was zero prepared. And I never got from my parents like, oh, are you saving part of your money that you're making? I was just like shopping every day and just, being a 22-year-old kid, and with zero, being very irresponsible. And then after that, I was like, oh my God, I'll never not have an emergency savings account, which, people usually say 3 to 6 months. because I've had my post-traumatic syndrome, I always try to keep at least a year. But yeah, I mean, that's where I think, you know, anything that holds you accountable, anything that helps you track what you're spending, what you're making, what you're saving, is a must, is like the number one thing. And as we know, as Latinas or as women, we are the ones who make 90% of the purchases in a household. And we also are the ones, between men and women, who feel the most insecure when it comes to managing our finances. So that's kind of contradictory. So we definitely need to catch up, to your point, but technology is there. Like, you don't need so much as far as like managing the money and tracking the money, and an app can do it for you. I mean, it connects to your accounts. It's super safe. It'll know how much you're spending on your credit cards, your ATM, your anything. It'll know, and it'll tell you. And you know, it's great how much you're spending on subscriptions, on subscriptions that you haven't used, you know, whatever. If you said you're going to spend X amount on something and you're spending triple, it'll let you know. So definitely take advantage of the technology available to us that, you know, our moms and our abuelitas did not have at their disposal.
Absolutely, and you touched on I'm going to call it like an elephant in the room that I hear all the time when you were talking about that emergency fund, because one, we don't build it, like we don't even, many of us don't even have it. But then there's a second thing that I hear from a lot of women, that is, they share their accounts with their, you know, significant others or other people, right, in their families. But then things happen, like, knock on wood, we don't want that to happen, but things happen. And because we're not used to, or we feel guilty, or we feel ashamed, whatever it is, there's so many reasons why we don't have our own accounts, right? We don't like build our own savings, checking, whatever it is, under our name. So when life happens, suddenly we're left with nothing, nothing under our name, nothing under our nothing. And when we're literally left on the street, and I hear that, like, those stories again and again. So it's not only, I think, about the emergency fund, but it's ours individually, and understand that it's okay. Like, we can have nuestro dinerito, we can have our account under our name. It doesn't mean that we don't love our significant other. It doesn't mean that we don't trust anybody. It just, I think it's a mind shift again of feeling that if anything bad happens, like, tenemos en donde caer. No, and I think that's important. I imagine that that's something that you've also seen on your end.
Well, you know, I don't have a separate account, which is, you know, if anybody knows me, it's like, what? Like, you know, I'm so like, but listen, I'm married in California, so whatever happens, it'll still be split amongst us. I'm hoping nothing ever happens. But you know, when my husband and I got married, we pretty much contributed the same amount to buy our house, to put in our savings account, to invest. And then regardless, it's California law. I mean, we definitely didn't sign a prenup because we had the same amount of, you know, little wealth, I guess, or savings. So in our case, whether I have it in a separate account or in the same account, it'll get split amongst us. So I, you know, my husband trusts me entirely. So I'm the one who manages the finances in our household. So I, you know, I manage the bank accounts and I make the payments. And so I don't feel like I don't, you know, I would be left with nothing, or I would have nowhere en donde caerme. But yeah, but if you have a different relationship, you know, for sure, I mean, only you know, like, what would happen in case of a massive emergency. So for me, I definitely have one account, and it's worked so far. I mean, 23 years, but God forbid if one day anything happens, but we'll split it.
What advice, like, we've talked a lot about, you know, all the work that you're doing at SUMA, but just you as Beatriz, like what advice would you give our audience? Many of them are entrepreneurs, but also many of them are in corporate careers. I would say we're sort of half and half. So any words of wisdom as we head into the end of our session today?
Just in general in life, or related to finance, or
your closing gems?
okay, no pressure. Well, listen, I mean, I'm assuming everyone here is Latino, Latina, Latine, Latinx, Hispanic. I think for me, something that I talk a lot about is to really, lean hard on your Latinidad in anything that you do. At least that's what's helped me a lot through my career. I know that for a lot of people, it's like, oh, well, I want to tone down my Latinidad because if I speak up, if I use my hands a lot, if, I wear my hoops, which I'm wearing today, or my red lipstick, like that's just not fitting into the culture, and that's just too much. I'm not gonna, get really to the level that I want. I've done the opposite, right? I always wear my embroidered dresses, blouses, red lipstick, big hoops. I'm loud. I use my hands, and it's worked really, really well in my favor. I can't tell you. I mean, I'm part of the most incredible boards, companies, advisory boards. I speak at every single conference from Cannes to Davos. I've won every single award I could have ever imagined, leaning very hard and being very proud of who I am. So I've never wanted to acculturate to a point of not being who I am. The moment somebody tells me, oh, but you don't really have an accent, I go full on into a bigger accent. Like I think that being different is a superpower. And I think that being the only one or the first one in a room, instead of making us feel small, little, unseen, anxious, should make you feel incredibly empowered. Or maybe that's just how, for some weird reason, I've always felt. Like I look at a room and I see a sea of sameness and I think, yes, I've got this. Like nobody here is like me. Nobody here has my insights. Nobody here has my point of view. So this is an amazing room for me to be in, but I do hear a lot of other women or people of color or who are like, oh my God, but I was the only one and I was the only so-and-so. And already they're making themselves little, where I'm like, oh, let me just take up as much space as I can in this room, right? Like I'm gonna definitely make myself like my presence is seen and felt here. And yeah, I would think that that is the biggest advice that I can give anybody. And that's personally and professional, right? Like be very proud of where you come from and know that those insights and that difference is what is going to be your biggest contribution to any place, whether you're an entrepreneur, because you really know the audience that you're trying to serve better than anybody. Or if you are in a company, that's also going to be your biggest contribution, knowing about a community that is the one that is growing the fastest and that no company in the future is going to be able to thrive or survive without us.
Thank you so much. I love to take up as much space as you can, because I think we tend to be little, like to be in the back, be small, be unnoticed, sort of blend in, right? Try to be as everybody else. Like that's the tendency and the mindset. So I love those words of no, like let's push forward. Let's really be different and embrace that difference in whatever way feels comfortable to us and it means to us. So thank you so much. We've put all of your information in the chat to our audience. Like join SUMA, be a part of it, really think about how you're going to build your wealth if you haven't already done so, because Beatriz has talked about it, the importance not only for ourselves, but also for the generations that are coming after us, right? It's how we're going to, as Latinos, really continue to create great impact, not only from a spending perspective, but also from an investment, and therefore enable to push other things that will benefit us as a community. Thank you so much again, Beatriz, for being with us virtually today. We really appreciate your time. We know that you're very busy doing a lot of different things, so we're really grateful for you to be here today.
No, it's very, very nice to be with everybody, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. So we've talked today a lot. We started with Valeria about our purpose and how to walk into our purpose, and so many gems that Paulette, dropped on the chat. Then we were able to talk to Rocio and Susana and Karen, who talked about, the importance of relationships and building resilience. Yes, Dania, come, and Carola as well, my incredible Women of ALPFA team. And then Beatriz had to really talk, bring wealth into our forefront. It was just like an incredible first day. Dania, close us up.
Yes, what a powerful day one. I hope you're as excited and energized as I am. And we hope that you join us tomorrow, day 2 in Boston in person. We'll start out with a career fair, then we'll have a workshop where we will visualize our success, and it will end with a networking session. So we hope to see you there.
Thank you. Carola, any final words? I'm also going to make a plug at the end, but any final words, Carola?
Just, I hope to see as many people as possible tomorrow.
Awesome. Well, before everybody leaves, also join us. Isi said it at the beginning. We are the ALPFamilia, and a way to celebrate together is through our convention that is set for August 7th through 10th. It's in Orlando. It's in person. So if you want to build your network, if you want to continue to connect, if you're looking for career, job opportunities, just professional development, learn from others, build your network, whatever it is, there's so many great opportunities. So we invite you to join us, and also to join us to celebrate 50 years of ALPFA. So make sure that you check that out, and we hope to see you there. But first, we hope to see you tomorrow during our in-person event in Boston. Thank you so much, everybody. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Have a good one, everybody.